My name's Carly Shaw. I'm a 17-year-old student in Comparative Cultures 12, and for my final project, I'm making this documentary to try and highlight the music community of Terrace, how it's changed over the years, and what it does for the people. Whether those people are musicians or just people who show up and watch, people who support. There's so many kind people in the Terrace music community, and I'm so grateful and so lucky to have been able to interview 3 different musicians. What I wanted to do was I wanted to get someone who is an amazing musician, but he's also not been around for as long as the other 2 people I've interviewed. And I wanted to kind of do like a little compare and contrast of the interviews and see just the difference in answers. And I got some really insightful answers from all 3 of the musicians that I've interviewed. And I couldn't have made this documentary without them. I started joining the music community around 6 months ago, right before I turned 17, for my dad's 50th birthday. He had hosted this big event, and so many musicians came, and I had the opportunity to go up and perform with my dad for the first time since probably 4th grade. And music is a very important thing to me. It's been around me my entire life. Like, it's not even I could not. There's never been a day where I have not been surrounded with music. And for that, I'm so grateful. So yeah, I've been going to music events ever since those 6 months, and I've been to almost every single open mic, and it's a wonderful place. It's a wonderful community filled with nice people. I feel very lucky and grateful because ever since those 6 months, I have gotten to play with so many different amazing musicians who have been doing this for a long time. And for me, when I just joined, it was incredible to see the amount of people who are just so willing to go and support you no matter what. And for that, I thought that this would be a great topic because the music culture is simply just amazing. So, cue the interviews. Okay. I have a very special guest here. This is my father, the 3rd person I'm interviewing, 2nd person interviewing of the day. And let's just start off with what's your name, your age, and something about you.
Okay, my name is Adam Shaw. I'm 50 years old, or years young, as I like to try and say.
Yeah, he likes to say that.
Yeah, and I've been in love with music ever since I can remember, in some way, shape, or form. But I've been playing music since I was about 15. Yeah, that's something about me.
Nice. Do you do that at home?
No, I've actually never done that before.
Oh, that actually sounded pretty good.
Yeah. My name is Ezra Beaton. I'm 18 years old. I've been playing music for about 10 years, and I'm born and raised in Gitson Territory in Hazelton and Kitwinga.
My name is Percy Gavronsky. I'm 71 years old, born in September 25th, 1954 in Bonnyville, Alberta. And I moved to Terrace in late 1969.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Have you been playing music since then?
I started in about 1973.
Oh, yeah.
That was my first, paying show. I was playing bass in a band called Capital Punishment, which was an issue at the particular time.
That's pretty cool, though.
And I pretty much did it throughout till now. I'm still doing it, but there was when my children were being born, I kind of backed off and recorded music and farted around in my little home studio. But for the most part, it's been just my hobby. Yeah.
How long have you been playing within the community?
In the Terrace community, I've been playing for about 2 years now. So I started performing when I was about 9, and I was living in Hazleton, playing in the community out there, mostly playing ukulele. I hadn't started playing guitar yet, and about 8 years ago, I moved to the Kitwanga area, and the pandemic hit. 2020, didn't play music for a while, and then in 2022 I started my own band, and early 2024, I guess it was, I kind of started doing some solo stuff, and I played at the Sherwood open mic for the first time. I went to Sight and Sound, and Josh McIntyre, who's a good friend of mine, plays in Sustain. He invited me to go to the open mic they were hosting, and I showed up there with just a looping pedal and a guitar, and played there for the first time, and that first performance really kind of helped kickstart my career in the local scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, pretty much since 1973,
Yeah.
I whenever I had a chance, I would hang out at the music stores, and that was, things were quite a bit different back then. Communication is so much more efficient and easy nowadays compared to what we did back then. Yeah.
Definitely an interesting topic too, and how like much has changed.
Oh yeah. It's the technology, especially in communications, is invaluable. We used to. I go to the laundromat, and what you do is you guitarist looking for a band, and you'd write your phone number about 10 or 15 times at the bottom of the page, and then you'd snip it, and people could tear that off, and then they'd phone you, and the whole process moved. Compared to today, like at a snail's pace. But we got her done.
I mean, it works.
Yeah.
Well, so I grew up on the east coast of Canada, in Cape Breton, which is very musical in their DNA. It's just music is everywhere back there, which is really cool. Not so much a musical family, and I moved away when I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
So I left home and I moved all the way out to Terrace, and so I took a bit of a break for the first while. I just kind of had a guitar under my bed, and I would play a little bit. And actually, I found it really hard to really break into the Terrace music scene.
Mm.
So I was probably not a part of active playing in Terrace until the early 2000s.
When you say like hard to break in the music scene, like what do you mean by that?
So there was a music scene that was happening in Terrace. It was what I was aware of. It was strictly kind of cover bands. So there was a few venues around where bands would play, and it would be like the Northern Motor Inn had country bands at the time. Gator's Pub, which was called Gigi's at the time, used to have kind of rock and roll or pop bands. They'd have a house band, and those bands would play 6 days a week. So you could go almost any night of the week and catch live music, which was great. And then the other gigs that would happen would be, your dances and your weddings and stuff like that. So there was a lot of activity in the music scene if you were in a cover band and playing with friends. And it was kind of a competitive scene, I would say, at that time. It was like, so there just wasn't a lot of opportunity. And if you're a musician, if you show up somewhere to jam, there's going to be 700 guitar players, and no drummers, and no bass players, maybe one drummer. And, so being a guitar player primarily, there probably wasn't a lot of space for me. And I was a bit of an outsider. So it took me a while to just kind of get involved. The biggest way I was able to meet musicians was by going to the local music store, Sight and Sound, which has always been a huge supporter of me, and I've been a supporter of it, and that's been a great place to be able to meet musicians. So that's how I kind of slowly trickled into the music scene. I would say is going there, meeting friends that way, and slowly breaking it. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing place.
How many bands have you been a part of or made?
Okay, that's a good question. So since I started playing, I've done a lot of solo stuff, and then when I was yeah, about 14, I started the Ezra Beaton band.
I remember that, of course.
And we only really played one show, and shortly thereafter I started, my lead guitarist for the Ezra Beaton band at the time was my cousin James Vickers, and he's an absolute prodigy, killer guitar player down in Nanaimo. And I was mostly just playing rhythm guitar, but I also played a bit of bass. And so I joined him for bass for about a year. We only played a few shows together, but I played bass in the James Vickers band a little bit. We changed our name from the Ezra Beaton band to Mellophile. 2023 was kind of when Mellophile started as a more solid thing. And then throughout 2023, 2024, we played a lot of shows in 2024. And that was around the time that I started playing at Sherwood as well. We played a couple shows at Sherwood, and late 2024, Mellophile kind of dissolved. We all went our separate ways, and I went back to doing some solo stuff. And then I started playing with Jim, who I think is going to be part of this series, and Percy, jammed with your dad, Adam, a bit, and I really enjoyed doing just the like trio kind of thing, the guitar, bass, and drums. And so early last year, 2025, I started the Ezra Beaton trio, which is what I've been playing in for the past, just over a year now. I've been doing the Ezra Beaton trio, and I'm having a lot of fun with that.
Definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, EzraBeaton.com. I got a website.
Website.
And we're coming out with an EP, and a lot of fun stuff on the horizon. And right now I'm working on a couple other projects that aren't quite ready to announce yet, but I've got some other cool stuff around the corner. We've been playing together a bit, and I think there's some stuff on the horizon there. And playing with another super cool young up and coming artist off of Vancouver Island. We're going to be doing a couple of shows together this summer. So I've played in a few groups. I've played a lot of solo stuff. I've played a lot of stuff where I'm kind of the front man. I've been kind of in the background. I've done a bunch of different stuff, and I really love it all, but I do enjoy the kind of trio stuff that I'm doing right now. Yeah.
When you mentioned Sherwood,
is
that like one of your favorite venues, or?
100%. Yeah. I haven't played a lot of venues, but I've played a fair share of venues for someone my age, I think. And as far as venues go, Sherwood kind of, to me, is the perfect space. Like, it's big enough to fit a decent sized crowd, but not so big that it feels suffocating or intimidating. The sound setup is incredible. The space itself is just a beautiful place to be in. I always feel super creative when I'm there. And the people who are there are always incredibly supportive. I don't think that I would have the music career that I do right now if it weren't for Sherwood. Like
awesome people.
The regulars there, the musicians that frequent the space there, people like Jim, people like your dad, people like Percy, and so many others have just made such a big difference for me, and I think you can speak to that as well.
Yeah, such amazing sound guys as well.
Yeah,
awesome.
Jerry, Matt, Jim.
Yeah,
countless. Yeah, I could go on and on about all the wonderful people at Sherwood, but it's one of my favorite spaces.
How frequent would you say that you play there?
I try to play there as often as I can. There's the open mics every couple of weeks, and I can't always be there, but in the winter months, I'm there basically every other week, sometimes more often, because sometimes I'll play shows there in between. But I'd say I average every other week, maybe between once a month and twice a month, like between there. And it's one of my favorite places to play.
You've made quite the commitment, driving down for hour and a half.
Yeah, it's about an hour, because I live in Kitwinga now, and that's about an hour outside of Terrace. And it's a bit of a drive to make it to Sherwood every time I play, but it's totally worth it. Yeah.
Is it enjoyable?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the drive or playing there.
Well, I think playing there you seem pretty fond of, but the drive as well. Yeah,
the drive's okay. I used to take the train, and that was not as fun.
Yeah.
And my brother Noah used to drive me, but now that I've got my own license and I'm able to have a little more independence.
Oh, Just in Terrace? Or
Just in Terrace.
Just in Terrace? I'd have to think about that, but I'm sure it's,
Rough estimate?
yeah, somewhere between 10 and 20. I'm not sure. I feel like I'm in 5 right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Honestly, I'd have to think about that. But there's been a few different ones, I would say, that went out and did some things. An early one I played with some really strong musicians. It was called Voice in the Wilderness, which was a precursor to another band that was called Big Red Switch. I won't say they're the same at all, but they were kind of one after the other.
Mm-hmm.
Counterfeit Saints being another band, One Match Fire being another band, which is now active again. At times I've been a part of the Dearly Departed and Late Night on Air. Yeah, I'd have to dig in my brain to think of the other ones, but
it would have to be about 10 or 15. They all last about 2 years, it seems, and there's different levels of commitment to all the people, and some are more driven and others are more casual, and there's no one right way, but what you need to, if you want a lasting band, you got to find like-minded individuals, and I was lucky enough in 1998 to get hooked up with some fellas that I played for 20 years together, and
dang.
yes, and it was it gets really easy after that because you just know each other so well, and you know what I'm capable, or what they're capable of, I'm capable of, and you just make it work. But getting over that hump, learning how to deal with each other's baggage, sometimes it's hard.
I bet.
But the camaraderie thing, as opposed to just being a band, but becoming friends makes a huge difference. There's guys that just play and they do well, but they don't socialize. Whereas that band, we would get together and we'd have a half-hour conversation before we even practiced or rehearsed. And I knew what was happening with him, he knew what was happening with me, and so he's being a little bit of a jerk, you can cut him some slack because he's going through a hard time. But if you don't know any of that stuff, or you don't know the person, it's really easy to get bent out of shape, and then pretty soon the project folds and you're back to looking for that little piece of paper at the laundromat for a new phone number.
That's a really good answer, actually. So you kind of said a little bit about this, but like, how has the music community changed?
yeah, well, I think it's grown. I think it's just grown and matured, and so that same scene we had before, where you'd be able to go out and dance to a great cover band, that still exists, and there's so many good cover bands in our town, so many talented musicians. But the part that was really great for me is seeing more original music, because I like to write music, so I saw that scene develop, and that was a big change. And that, I say, that shift took place right around the early 2000s. There was a few places that started doing some kind of more coffee house type gigs or open mics and that kind of thing. Like Cafanera was an early place that did those things. The Elephant's Ear was an early adopter, which was a coffee shop that's now closed down, but they were great. You get some of these smaller shows happening. And then, there was a bit of a punk scene, I know, late 90s, early 2000s, that happened in Terrace. A couple of little festivals that happened, like Dirkstock and, oh man, I'm struggling to remember the names of some of these little festivals that came around, and it seemed to just create new opportunities for people to come out and play their music. And so that was a huge change, and with that came a different audience. And with the different audience came different opportunities for people to, have a reason to put together a festival, or have a reason to have a venue. So then more venues developed, and then you're moving into the time when, Sherwood Mountain Brewery came around. When we got the brewery and they started having live music there, it would be this mixture of great cover bands as well as like great original artists, or even artists from out of town coming through. So that infrastructure grew, and what I found was with more opportunity that way, there was less competing for gigs, and just more opportunity to be able to kind of be a community in the musical community, and support each other. So that's what I've seen grow, and it's really grown. Like, we have an amazing music scene in Terrace right now, and Sherwood has taken on a whole other life with their new development in the hall, and they've got this great venue down there, and there's been some other venues that have popped up and been great, and I see a lot of local songwriting artists and stuff, and that's been really cool. People releasing original music right out of Terrace. I love that.
Super interesting to see happen.
Well, using the technology, I think, in the positive. When I was first started playing in Terrace, and it could be just my own experience, but it seemed like everybody was a little bit more cliquey. Not evil cliquey, but the bands sort of kept to themselves, whereas now you get two bands working together. A group show would be a competition as opposed to a benefit and over the years I've noticed that, I guess, as like humans, we're evolving and we're hopefully getting better.
Yeah. What advice do you get from the older music community who have been a part of it and experienced so many different music scenes?
There's been a lot of really valuable advice that I've gotten. I think the most important piece of advice I've gotten has been from some folks who are not, you might not call them older. They're older than myself, but they're not really old. They're my friends in Highbush Caribou, which is a great band out of Prince Rupert. They're probably 10 years older than myself, maybe a little more, and a lot of them have been in different music scenes for 5-10 years, sometimes longer, and they've all got tattoos that say riff on them, which stands for
sick.
Remember It's for Fun. And that's the biggest thing for me. I've gotten that advice worded differently from a lot of different people, but that's kind of the number one piece of advice that I try to follow when I'm playing, because I find that sometimes I start to take it too seriously. I start to get stressed over the details. I start to get stressed over the money side of it because I do want to make a career out of it. But at the end of the day, the reason that I got into it is to express myself and to have fun. So that's the biggest piece of advice that sticks with me is just remembering that it's for fun and staying creative and staying true to the reason that I started.
Have you given advice to younger musicians? And if you did, what was it?
One of the members of that 20-year band was Tony DeMello, our Sight and Sound representative. I was about 25 years old, and I was in a music store. I was wanting to buy this Les Paul. It was called Tillicum Keyboards. Sight and Sound's competition back in the day. And this young kid comes in and he says, I want to get into a band. He says, what does it take to be in a band? I said, what are you? He said, well, I'm a drummer. And I said, practice. Practice. And I said, make it fun, because if you just practice scales or whatever drummers practice or whatever instrument you're playing, if it's fun, if you can get in there and you just actually love your instrument, it gets easy. It's easier to do. It's easier to stay there for a couple hours as opposed to practicing your scales and then throw it in the case and wait till next week. If you like it, it's not practice, it's fun.
Exactly, that's definitely important too.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I've tried, but sometimes when it's your daughter, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, I you know what? Nothing makes me happier. I think when I was a kid and where I grew up, I felt like, if there was 50 kids that you could think of, I felt like 25 of them were being musicians or trying to be or whatever. And there was a time when that seemed to shift and it wasn't as prominent. And I don't know if it was because of, the internet or video games and stuff, and just other forms of entertainment became so engaging that I think there was a bit more of a lull. And I've just been so happy to see young people like you or like Ezra, like all these people coming up, and it makes me feel like, oh yes, the future is safe, because music is such an intimate and personal experience that we need that. And I know there's a lot of music, there's more music being made today than ever before, with the internet and Spotify and people having access to be able to get their music out to the world. So it's almost overwhelming how much music there is. But I'm just really happy to see it being made in my own community by the next generation of people. So I try and give advice as much as I can. I don't want to step on anybody's creativity. Anytime anybody's ever come up to me and asked me something about music, if they're interested or whatever, I'm always happy to tell them. And I think it's usually well received, if it's not my daughter.
Well, it's kind of funny because I've had people come up to me for advice. I'm like, I'm not the one to ask.
But you've already. I mean, you're in some ways you're just starting your journey in music, but at the same time you've been doing it your whole life because you've grown up around it, and so you do have a certain level of knowledge and comfortability that other people just won't have.
Yeah, I actually, I think it was the last open mic I went to. I had someone ask me about stage fright,
Right.
and so I had to tell them the story. I was like, well, actually, I'm still not great with stage fright, and I'm still trying to work on my confidence because the first time I ever performed was in January, for my dad's birthday, and I actually ran off the stage crying because it was another young person as well,
Yeah.
but they were still older than me, and so, yeah, they're like, what?
Well,
Really? It doesn't even look like that.
And that's the thing. I think a lot of times with performance, the audience won't perceive a lot of the things that as an artist you'll worry about. I think that a lot of the things that we get in our head about, the average casual listener doesn't even pick up on, and it's not because they're not intelligent or not engaged. It's because they focus on other things. They're focusing on the experience. They're focusing on all the things they hear that are beautiful. And to be honest, stage fright. I still have stage fright every time. Every single time. And I'm a little bit courageous in some ways because I was just at a wedding this weekend. It kind of went through the whole weekend, and it'll happen because I know enough musicians. There's live music happening, and they'll just point at me and they'll say, Adam, come on up and play a song. And I haven't prepared at all, and sometimes I don't even know the song that I'm going to play with them, and I just have to fly by the seat of my pants, and I still get the fright. I still get the stage fright and whatever, but I think hard things are good things. I think the way to get to the things that we want, we have to do hard things. So you just get up and you just do it, and the more you do it, the easier it gets, because it's not because you get so much better at it, it's because you find out how to cope with all the things that could go wrong.
I agree.
Yeah.
What was the community like when you just started? How many venues were there?
Here in Terrace, there was the Red Door, which is in the, I guess, is that the Best Western? It's Terrace Hotel that we call it over there by, right across the street from the old co-op empty parking lot there, And the Red Door, that was the one that they had bands, some regional, but then they were on, it was a circuit that BC had it, and I think certain promotion companies, these bands would come, and you had to be really good. There was an A circuit and a B circuit, and they had to have their own PA systems. Like now, most venues have their own PA, whereas back then they had to bring their show, their lights, and it was quite an ordeal, and it was fun as a patron of those. I used to, every week I'd go watch these guys, and there was some incredible music being played. A lot of it cover music, some of it original, and some stuff was just out of this world. And you think, oh, the A band, they were always a little bit better, and they would get paid more, but they would arrive like 2 days before and be setting up their PA and their lights and sound checking and keeping the whole hotel awake with the noise.
Oh. What was the difference? You kind of answered this, but what was the difference in venues you saw then and now?
Well, they like the PA thing, and it just seemed they used to from 10 till 2, 10 p.m. till 2 in the morning, and now I find that and you didn't get a lot of people my age going there. It was just too late, eh? And now I see, like at a Sherwood's, you can go from open mic in the afternoon, and then there was a show, your dad's birthday party. We start at 8 and go to 11 or 12. That seems to have changed, and I think that's a positive.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, a big change, and this was from a long time ago. I mean, I remember going to the Northern Motor Inn, to George's Pub, the Dern, and I remember back in the day, it was literally a country western bar. So you'd go in there, and it would be a country band playing, and country's great. I love country, but that was kind of that niche, and now you go to the Northern and it's just any kind of band. So that one's changed entirely, but they really focus on music there, which is great. So you can go out there and you can dance to just about any kind of band now, which is cool. And then there's other venues that just plain old didn't exist, you know, like Sherwood's a good example with the hall there now. I mean, there's musical events going on several times a week now down at Sherwood. We've got Hidden Acres, the barn, with the Gagnon family out in Thornhill. They've built this beautiful property, and there's a tree house resort that you can stay at, and there's farming happening. It's all this mix of like, celebrating this land that we live on, and nurturing it, and being able to draw from it and be able to celebrate it all there in this beautiful landscape. You know, that's a beautiful property they have there, and they've had festivals there, Farm Fest, and some different events, and that's a whole venue that didn't exist as well, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful place to play. It's beautiful. So I feel really blessed and lucky to have all this, and not only that, the even bigger support. I think in the early days when I would go out to see live music, you would have your people who were going out for live music, but a lot of people would just be going out just to go out, just to have an evening out, and so it wouldn't be their destination was chosen because of live music. It would just be they want to go out and have some drinks with friends. Whereas now we've got all these different events happening, and people are choosing to go out and see live music and be a part of that. So the audience has grown. So yeah.
And One Match Fire, the band that you're in now, was actually the first ever band to play at Sherwood, is that right?
Well, actually the first band to play there, the first group to play there was Late Night on Air. So that's good friends Jordan and Kenny. And there's been several other artists. I even played in that band for a short time. So they actually played the first show there, but it was an acoustic kind of show and just a duo, and because it was small. Sherwood was really small physically as a location back then. And One Match Fire was the first time they experimented with bringing in a full band with drums and that kind of thing. So yeah, we set up in Sherwood, and at the time there was only one bathroom in the facility, and there was a little cove where there was coolers where you could get bottles or cans of beer, and then the washroom was there, and that's where we set up the band. So I was set up there and playing my guitar in the corner, and every time I'd be singing, and every time somebody would have to go to the bathroom, I'd have to kind of step away. So they'd have to wait until I was done singing the part, and then I'd step away, maybe do a little guitar solo. They could go in, use the bathroom, and I'd try have to guitar solo long enough so they could come back out, and I'd go back to singing. Yeah, it was fun. One of the greatest compliments I ever got was from Percy, actually, who you've interviewed as well. Percy is someone I look up to. Percy's got a few years on me. He's been doing this a lot longer. And Percy, when he gives you a compliment, it's always something specific. Like a lot of people, when you perform or when you're in the public eye a little bit, or you're a musician, it's just genuine that people will come up and they'll say, "Man, great job." And you hear that a lot. And you just think, "Yeah, that's a great job." But sometimes people come with something very specific, and that's Percy. He'll come and he'll say, "Hey, I heard that song that you wrote, the third song you played in the second set. The second chorus, there's this line that you said about this. That was great. What were you thinking when you wrote that?" Like Percy's he hones in. And one of the best compliments he gave me was not about how well I played, and not about like how skilled I am or how, nothing like that. It was, "Man, your recovery time when you make a mistake is really good." And that's a genuine compliment for me, because I know I'm not perfect. I know live music is dangerous. That's what makes it so exciting. Anything can happen. So for him to say that, he saw something happen or go wrong, and because a musician will recognize it a little bit, for him to see that and think that I did a good job, not sinking the ship. Yeah, that was a big compliment.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What difference do you see from the first band you were in to the present band you're in now?
Well, the first band that I was in was not too long ago, and I think the biggest difference that I see between the first band I was in and the one that I'm in now is just the way that my kind of leadership skills have changed. The first band I was in, everybody was super professional. I mean, most of us were just a bunch of kids, but the first band that I created, or that I was a serious part of, was the Ezra Beaton band in 2022, which was only 4 years ago, which is not a long time for most people, but for someone as young as you or I, it feels like a long time ago. And I was 14, and we had Simon Stockner playing drums for us, and he's a longtime friend of mine, and he's about 13 years older than myself, so he's got a lot more experience than myself, but he's young enough to still be able to easily put himself in the shoes of someone younger, less experienced. So he provided a lot of guidance for me. And so in a lot of ways, I feel like there isn't a very big difference, because I'm still quite young. I'm still learning a lot, and I'm still playing with people who are giving me a lot of advice, giving me opportunities to learn, you know. Yeah, my current drummer, Jason, is also quite a bit more experienced than myself. He's a lot younger than Simon, but he's been playing for over 10 years. You know, he's 23 or 24 now, but he's been playing since he was around when I started, like 6 or 7 years old. And,
Yeah, just in it from the get-go.
Yeah, in it from the get-go, and he's been playing in bands for over 10 years now. And so even though we're a lot closer in age, he's still able to give me guidance. We're able to learn from each other. So in a way, in a sense, there are a lot of differences. You know, my leadership skills have changed a lot. I've learned a lot more as an artist. My musical skills are like completely different. I feel like I've improved a lot in the past few years, but I try to keep the kind of the original spirit of what that first band was. I try to keep that, which is just, you know, getting up there, having fun, interacting with the audience. Yeah, I think I see the biggest difference in myself and how much I've grown and changed in the past few years.
Good response.
Thank you.
Well, at the risk of sounding vain, I think we're a little better.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that makes sense.
But I think the things you worry about when you first start are things that, after a while you don't. They're sort of less important. Coming through genuine, even if it's a little bit rough around the edges, but if it's from the heart, it seems to be better. And it was like, I noticed at the beginning, it was never from the heart. It was always pretty mechanical, but it might have been because of my skill level was lesser. But hence the practice rule.
Yeah, the advice was good.
Yeah.
Well, first band I was ever in was terrible. Like, we were terrible. But I'll tell you, we loved it so much. The first band I was in, really where I would say it was my first band, was with a guy from across the street, one of my really good friends growing up. And he didn't play an instrument, but he had a friend that became, you know, we were mutual friends of him, that I met, who was a guitar player. So he and I hit it off, and you know, this friend was so we convinced him to buy the bass. And he was left-handed, but we got him a right-handed bass. So, you know, he had to overcome a lot to learn that. But you know, we were terrible. We sounded horrible. But right away, we just started writing songs. We just started writing songs about whatever. And we were like this little unit. And you know, I loved how prolific we were. Even if it was terrible, we recorded some equipment, but we wrote a lot of material. And so I would say that the quality of musicianship has come a long way, but in so many ways, I'm still just that little kid. Yeah, same little kid that just fell in love with it, and just loves to do it. And that's the joy about music as a hobby. It's, you know, if I had have been a hockey player growing up, and there's nothing wrong with hockey at all. I loved hockey when I was a kid, but if that had been my passion, you know, my knee wouldn't allow me probably to keep playing hockey at a high level right now at my age. You know, something, you know, they're taxing hobbies. Music is taxing in some ways, but it's something you can do right up until, you know, you can't do anything else. And I'm really grateful for that. So, you know, even though I'm getting older and my beard's getting white and all that kind of stuff, you know, there's just a little kid in me that just loves music, and that part's never changed.
That's great. That's very insightful. Do you see more or less motivation in yourself?
More, for sure. I because I'm doing it for different reasons now, I mean, slightly different reasons, as I said, I'm still trying to stay true to the reason that I started with it, but I started playing music just because I wanted to be a rock star, because I thought it was cool. And then when I was 14, I kind of found a new motivation for it, which was trying to get out of my comfort zone, because I struggled a lot with social anxiety. And so I was having trouble with just day-to-day interactions, because interacting with another person can be so unpredictable. And so getting up on stage and playing music was scary in a sense, because I was doing it in front of so many more people. But also I was getting an opportunity to avoid that unpredictability by playing these songs that I'd practiced dozens, if not hundreds of times in my room. So to a certain degree, there's always going to be something that can and will go wrong during a performance, but it's a lot more predictable, I think, than sometimes just interacting with people face to face to a certain degree. And that was kind of the main motivation for me when I was 14, was just to get out of that fear of being up in front of people, to get out of my comfort zone. And now I feel like there's a lot more motivation, because I've pushed past that, and I don't get as anxious anymore. And now my motivation is to get an audience, to get a platform, and to use that to speak about problems that I find are relevant, that are urgent, and to hopefully use my platform for good. And that's really the main motivation that I find now, currently where I am in my career, and that motivates me more than anything. I think I'm more motivated now than I ever have been, partially because I'm now, as I get more and more into the industry, I'm becoming more and more aware of how difficult it is to actually make it. And that, I thought that would discourage me, but it's actually given me more motivation to be better, to do better, to try harder, because I realize how low my chances are, but I really want to do it, because I feel that I can hopefully make a change in the world, and that's what I want to do.
And man, I mean, like, even just like watching you now, like, we went out to the farmer's market today, and you're just interacting with so many people, and all these people are like, oh my gosh, Ezra.
Yeah.
You have like a lot of people who love you and support you, and I think that that's really great.
Yeah, I'm super grateful to all the people who are seeing what I'm doing and deciding that that's something that they want to support. It absolutely means the world to me.
Yeah, well, I'm a little bit long in the tooth, so I've slowed down a bit. That project, 20-year project, ended because it was just getting too difficult to keep physically. Like 10 till 2, weekend after weekend was just getting tiring, and I decided, and plus I would partake a little bit more than I should have, and it was wearing me out, and I decided that if I wanted to live longer, I better should take it easier. Now it's just a hard fact of life, but that's how I've changed over the years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that ebbs and flows, and that changes. There can be different things that drive it, because I've messed with a lot of different things with music. I started out just really wanting to be a guitar player. I just wanted to play guitar, and I did that, and then I realized, well, I want to be in a band and play guitar. And then you realize, okay, well, you need a singer. And when you're young, you can't just find a singer; it's hard or whatever. So next thing you know, I'm singing, and then then I start hearing people play the drums, and I love it. And I would sit behind the drums and I play the drums, and then next thing you know, there's no bass player, so I play bass. And next thing you know, I want to write music, and then I want to record it, so I start learning how to record stuff, and I learn how to produce, and I learn how to write. So you end up wearing a lot of hats. I've gone off track of what the question is, but
Seeing the same motivation today as them.
Yeah. I think I get motivated in all those different things. I love to learn, and I love to advance, and I'm not very speedy at that. It takes me a long time to learn maybe new tasks and stuff, but I get motivated when I see new opportunities in those things to achieve whatever it is I see in my brain about music. And what I love about music is I love the exchange that you have with people. I love being able to, there's not a lot of art forms where the art is something that's happening. Like there's lots of beautiful physical art. If it's a painting, you see a painting on the wall. If it's photography, it's a beautiful picture of a beautiful physical object or whatever. But music is this thing that just kind of exists. It's a feeling, it's a happening, it's an experience. And so I really love that experience. And sometimes just listening to music will give you that. And so it could be canned music that you have in headphones or whatever. And sometimes it's watching it happen or whatever. But just that feeling and that exchange between that art and the creator of that art and the emotions and all that kind of stuff that it stirs up and what it's like to experience that as a person.
Yeah. What emotions come out when you play?
That's a good one. I think it depends on what I'm playing, where I'm playing, why I'm playing. But I think the biggest emotion that I feel, and this is something that's stayed consistent throughout the years, is I just feel peace when I'm playing. Because I'm a naturally anxious person, and when I get to pick up the guitar, I can just kind of get lost in the music, and I find an immense sense of peace in that, where I can just kind of go into my own world. Even when I'm on stage, I find that the healthiest thing I can do when I'm in front of the crowd is just act like they're not there while I'm playing, and I just kind of sit back into this wall of sound, and this immense sense of peace and happiness comes over me. And some songs that I play are more energetic or more angsty, or the lyrical content might be a little heavier, and so in some of those songs sometimes I do feel anger, sadness, but I think there's always a sense of peace and happiness when I'm up on the stage doing what I love with the people that I love, like with my friends. It's my favorite thing in the world. So yeah, I feel a lot of peace and a lot of happiness when I'm up on stage.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, that's a good one. When I play guitar, you know, if I'm having a really good night and I'm just really into it, tears can come out of my eyes,
Yeah.
and it's not a big deal. Nobody really notices. But when you sing, and that happens to you, it's tough. It's really tough. It can overwhelm you, and it can actually screw up your performance. But if you can get right on the stupid line or whatever, just really close to that, and I don't know, devise a way of just being right on that edge. That when I do that, my performances I feel are better, better than mechanical and detached
More
or
soulful.
doesn't work. But the emotion can overwhelm you. That's I'm sure you've experienced that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm an emotional guy. I'm
Big teddy bear.
big teddy bear. I cry. I do all those things, and music. I mean, I think if you haven't thought about this before, music really, really taps into the emotional center of our beings. It has this way of connecting with humans on this molecular level. And an easy way to see that is, if you were to watch a movie scene, and see if you can find some famous movie scene or some movie you like where it's an emotional scene. Watch it without music, without the music from the soundtrack that they put in behind. Watch it, and then watch it with the music, and see the impact that has. So, I mean, there's lots of different ways that music gets emotional. Sometimes it's the lyrics of the song. It might be a song that's a story about something beautiful or something sad, and that can be emotional. Sometimes, like watching a musician conjure from the universe like a wizard something that just, because you can play the notes of a song and it'll sound a certain way and it'll be nice and it'll be just fine and all those things. But sometimes, like a Jimi Hendrix, you watch that guy wield a guitar. It's unworldly, and I've watched that in people I know, in my friends. I've seen it from, you know, the big acts and stuff too, and I've felt it myself. Just when you get lightning in a bottle, and I don't know what the, you know, it's X factor. I don't know what the term is for that. It's something that can't be spoken, but that's an emotional thing that if you ever experience that as a musician or as an artist, you don't ever want to give that up. And that's what also keeps bringing me back to playing. And you know, sometimes I'm an introverted person, even though I seem extroverted. I can be awkward, socially awkward, and all those kinds of things. I can find it hard to approach people and talk to people, even though I talk a lot. I'm not always easygoing that way. So something I find hard about being a musician is talking to people after I perform, because I go up there and I do something, and I really, you know, you really lay yourself out there and expose yourself and stuff, you know, on the stage, and you do something, and people, like, you know, thankfully people want to say nice things to you afterwards. I always find that really hard and really awkward.
Yeah.
That's the part that actually, like, terrifies me about being a musician and being an artist, and that goes back to the stage fright and all those things. But hitting that lightning in a bottle on stage, when you're behind a singer who just hits a note that, you know, sounds like the skies are opening up, and it's, oh, you know, that kind of thing. Or when you see a guitar player, you know, do this solo that just blows your mind, and you're a part of that, there is nothing on this planet that's ever going to double that experience. So anybody catches that, they're hooked. Yeah.
What is the importance of making friends in the community? What is meaningful about it, and how does it connect to completely different people?
Oh, I think it's the most important thing in the world. I was talking to a guy that I met on the street in Victoria a few days ago, and he asked me, "What's your favorite thing in the world?" And I had never been asked that before. It was this total spur of the moment. Random guy came up to me, and we were talking, and he had a guitar, and he was gonna just come up with a song on the spot about me. And he asked, "What's your favorite thing in the world?" And I thought about it for a second, and I think it's just finding human connection. And music absolutely does that, 100%. And so I think it's natural, it's ingrained in who we are as people, as animals, you know? And humans have been making music for all of history. And so finding community in art, in its self-expression, in music, I think it connects people on a much deeper level than most other things can, you know, because you can look around in a crowd at a concert, and you might not recognize any of the faces around you, but you know that you're surrounded by people that you share a common interest or a common love with, you know, because you're all there, you're enjoying the music. And that is one of the best feelings for me, is just being able to find community with others. And yeah, it makes a huge difference. I don't think that my life would be half of what it is without having friends and connections through music.
Well, we're social animals, and it's great to share ideas and experiences with others, and doing that in music is just incredible when it works. And you couldn't do it if you weren't friends. You can be playing in an orchestra where you don't know anybody in the orchestra, and you can have a great performance, but if you just pack up your instrument and go home, I think you're missing out on something,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, well, I think music is its own language. I mean, that's nothing I'm making up. A lot of people say that, but music is a language unto itself. So, you know, it makes sense when you speak a language to want to speak to other people that speak the same language. So there's a camaraderie that musicians can share. You know, you might meet someone who's a musician, and you have this connection that, you know, on a personality level, you wouldn't have with that same person just outside, you know, doing gardening or something, you know, for something different, you know. But I think it's really important from a lot of ways. If you want to develop as a serious artist and you want to really go out and become a busy working musician or whatever, it's always good to network. It's always good to know other musicians, know other players. The best way I've ever found to advance as a musician is to play with people who are better than me. And I'm lucky to get to do that all the time. I have a lot of friends who are incredible musicians. And so I think just in that whole vein of building a community, it takes a community. It takes a village. It takes a village to raise the infrastructure. It takes a village to keep that momentum going. And music is not a sport.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I talked about hockey earlier. It's not a sport. It's not a competition. It doesn't have to be. Everybody can win. And so when you realize that, when you realize it doesn't matter if someone's better than you or if someone can do something you can't or whatever, everybody's their own individual voice. Everybody's unique. You know, we're all like snowflakes or whatever. We're all unique. And once you recognize that, it's a beautiful thing to be able to just root for everybody. So, you know, I think it just makes us stronger as musicians and as a community, and it just creates more opportunity for collaboration. Something I like to do is to collaborate with people and to be able to write with people, or help make their music better, or them help make my music better, or whatever. It's a beautiful thing, and many hands make light work, and you just never know when you're going to need someone to help you out, and it's always good to have good friends.
Very true.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Do you feel intimidated by the current musicians?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I constantly feel like I'm out of my depth when I'm surrounded by other musicians. We're quite isolated up here, and so I don't get a chance to play with a lot of other musicians a lot. And so I think that makes it even more intimidating when I do get to play with experienced, good musicians.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to playing on my own or playing with my bandmates who I'm used to playing with. And so when I play with other guitarists, other singers, when I see other guitarists, when I see the immense talent and skill that is present in the current music industry, I feel incredibly intimidated because I see how dedicated other people are to their craft. And I feel intimidated, but I also feel incredibly inspired. That's the thing, is I try to take that intimidation and turn it less into fear and more into inspiration.
Yeah.
And seeing other people doing what I love to do so well could be interpreted as, oh, I'll never be this good, I might as well give up now. Or it could be interpreted as, these people are doing it, so why can't I?
Exactly.
That was what made me start playing guitar. I was 13 years old, still playing ukulele, and my cousin James, who I mentioned, was 11, and he'd been playing guitar for 9 months, and he was already playing Eddie Van Halen, Chuck Berry, Angus Young. He was playing a lot of really good stuff on the guitar, and so I thought, if my little cousin can do it, why can't I? I could have just looked at him and said, he's only been playing for 9 months and he's already so good, I may as well, I don't even want to try because he's so much better than me. But instead, I saw what he was doing and saw how much he enjoyed it and thought, why don't I try it? And I did, and that was the best decision I ever made. So to a certain degree, I do feel intimidated, but in a lot of ways that just translates to inspiration and motivation for me to keep doing better and to strive to be at the same level as other musicians. That was something that I talked to my parents about when I was 15 or 16, looking for new bandmates. I was at a point where I was playing with other people who were at my level or below my level, like people who were learning from me, and I realized I was at a point where I wasn't ready to teach other people. I still needed to learn a lot before I was ready to teach other people. And so I realized that the healthiest thing for me as a musician is to surround myself with people who are better than me, people who intimidate me. That's what I love about playing with Jim. What I love about playing with my drummer Jason, with Matt, my bassist, with Percy, with your dad Adam, these musicians who are so much more experienced than me. To a certain degree, I feel intimidated by them, but it also just motivates me to keep doing better, to keep improving, to keep learning.
I think a lot of people can learn from that.
100%, yeah.
You talked a lot about musicians who you feel are really good and how you like to keep them around because it's good inspiration. Do you have a biggest role model?
Oh man, there's a lot of people. Historically, role models to me have been people like David Gilmour, who, he built this incredible career, and musically he's one of my biggest inspirations. Playing guitar for Pink Floyd, they're one of my favorite bands. I've spent hundreds of hours listening to them, and he is not only an inspiration to me as a musician, but also as a person. I think sometime in the 2010s he auctioned off a vast majority, if not all, of his guitar collection for charity, raised millions of dollars for charity by selling all his most prized guitars, the Black Strat and his gold top Les Paul and all these songs that he recorded. Like the Black Strat was used on The Dark Side of the Moon, and he sold his gold top Les Paul, which was used to record Another Brick in the Wall, and so he's one of those people who doesn't take his platform for granted, and he uses it to raise money for good causes, and he's a family man. He makes time for his family in spite of being one of the biggest, most popular guitarists in the world. And then also I have a lot of friends who inspire me. A lot of people in the local Canadian scene and the local Terrace scene who inspire me. My friend Joel West, who I play guitar for. I guess that's another band I didn't mention when you asked how many bands I've been part of the Joel West band as of this year. And Joel's a big inspiration to me. He's incredibly humble. He's incredibly kind. He does his best to do what he can for his community. He does a lot for Indigenous communities all around Canada. And people like Logan Stotts, who's a folk musician out of the Six Nations territory. I met him a few years ago, and he was immediately friendly to me. He supported my band, and he's a land defender, advocate for Indigenous rights, and also just, prioritizes his family and his community and the land, that inspires me greatly, because that's the one thing that I never want to do, is take my platform for granted, because as artists, we can draw people into a space to listen to us, to listen to what we have to offer, and when you get that many people in a room, I've played in front of hundreds of people before, and when you're playing in front of that many people, you have an opportunity to say things that matter and to make a change. And I am young, but I have already sometimes taken that for granted, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to ever do that. I think there's a lot of things in the world that need to be changed, and there's a lot of things that need to be talked about more. And I as an artist, even though I don't have a lot of fans yet, even though I'm not a popular musician by any measure except maybe a small town measure, I can sell out Sherwood and get 100 people in a room who want to listen to me, and I try not to take that for granted. And so people like Logan Stotts, people like Joel West, other Indigenous musicians in Canada, Aisanabe, who's an incredible musician, another Indigenous musician, Juno winner, a lot of Indigenous people around a lot of Indigenous artists around Canada who are using their platform to make a difference. I think those are some of the biggest inspirations for me.
That makes me think about it was for your birthday that you did the fundraiser, right?
Yeah.
The Cassette House?
Yeah. My 18th birthday, which was just a couple months ago, I played my first headline show at Sherwood, and yeah, we made it a fundraiser because I realize how fortunate I am, not only as an artist but just as a person in general. You know, I have so many things that so many people don't have. You know, I have a car. I have gas to put in my car. You know, I have musical instruments. I have a career. I have a family. I have a roof over my head and clothes on my back, and so many simple things like this we take for granted, and so many people don't have these things. You know, and I grew up very aware of that. I grew up surrounded by poverty. I still live in one of the poorest valleys in BC. The Kootenay Valley is one of the poorest valleys in BC. And so I've grown up knowing how fragile life is and how fortunate I am to have what I have. And so I wanted to put something special on for my birthday, and I realized I had an opportunity to raise some money for a good cause. And so, yeah, we raised, I think, over $2,000 for charity in one night, which was like,
That's amazing.
yeah, better than I could have dreamed for. And that's the kind of stuff that makes me want to keep going, is knowing that I can and already am making a difference. It's like monumental to me.
Does the joy of others after a performance outweigh the negative people?
Yeah. Well, so I try not to. I try to find the positive and the negative. If somebody comes up to me and says, you know, your guitar was too loud and you're pitchy and anyways, and I think, you know, that can be a bit of a downer. But I try to think, is this person just being a jerk, or maybe he's trying to tell me something and he's just not that articulate at speaking. And anyway, so you got to weigh all of that out. If he's accurate, you take his advice. But there's people who are just sometimes just nasty because they have insecurities, and you're doing something that possibly they wish they could. They might be a good friend to make.
Yeah.
And bring them, and then they would change their position rather quickly.
100%. I wouldn't still be doing this if it didn't, you know. But there are so few people who are outwardly negative in the musical community. There's, you know, you get a handful of people who are snobs or whatever. They might be rude, but a vast majority of people, and this isn't always the case, but I'm lucky to be in a situation where a vast majority of people that I interact with during, after shows are incredibly kind, incredibly supportive, and those people, even if it was half and half, you know, even if 50% of the people that I interacted with didn't like it and the other 50% did, which it isn't, it's like way less than that.
Oh yeah.
But even if 50% of the people that I interacted with didn't like what I was doing, I would still keep going, because there's that other 50% that I can lean into and rely on.
I think that's one of the most amazing things about Terrace's music community, is just how much positive and supportive people there are out there.
100%.
Like,
Yeah.
they just really go out and they support you, and they're just always so kind. And I think, honestly, there's only been probably about 3 negative people that I've interacted with. And, you know, there's just been so many positive people.
Yeah.
So
100%. I see that with you, with your performances. I see everybody coming together to support you, and so much positive feedback. And I see the same with my own performances, and it's a great feeling, you know, knowing that we have people behind us, people who support us. It means the world to me. Yeah.
the amazing business too, Sight and Sound. You got the support
100%.
local music
Yeah.
shirt.
Yeah, Sight and Sound has made a big difference in my career as well. You know, I wouldn't have started playing at Sherwood if it wasn't for Sight and Sound, because Josh works at Sight and Sound, and I met him there, and he was the one who got me into the open mics, and Sight and Sound is they do sound for all the shows at Sherwood, and they do sound for a vast majority of the venues in Terrace, all the major venues. They're there.
They do so much for the community.
They're incredibly involved. Yeah. Shout out Sight and Sound.
Shout out Sight and Sound.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I honestly, negative people don't affect me, and the only reason is because I'm negative enough on myself already. So I'm pretty hard on myself, and I think that's a common trait for musicians. You know, another thing that's beautiful about our scene. It's not just the musicians; it's the people who support music. People love music, and they really love seeing someone go up there and bare their soul and do all those kinds of things. So our community is so supportive. It's amazing, and I know you felt that. I watched you experience that in real time over the last 6 months, kind of thing, stepping out into that scene and just being welcomed in with open arms like that. That's a beautiful thing.
Totally.
But inevitably, if you do it enough, there's always going to be some kind of negativity or some, and artists, we're fickle, and we are particular, and we're quirky, and we're eccentric, and all those things. And so within a music community, as much as I'm saying how beautiful it is and stuff, none of us are perfect. And so there's always going to be little things that come up. And there can be negative things sometimes, but I don't think that they really need to take the wind out of your sails, because iron sharpens iron. That kind of stuff just makes you double down and keep going, and it'll just make you a better person through the course of it. But I'm hard enough on myself that I speak louder than anybody who's going to say anything negative about something that I do. So I'm always really hard on myself. So I'm working on that. I'm trying to be, that's never gone away either. And I'm trying to accept the fact that, sometimes maybe I did do a good job, because I think it's pretty easy as an artist right away. As soon as you go out and perform or do that, you're going to say, oh, I biffed that D chord in the third verse, I hit that funny note and whatever, and you'll hyper focus on that, and you'll think that, oh, everybody hated it because of that. And to be honest, nobody saw it. Nobody heard it. Nobody knew it happened. You're so hyper focused, or you're like an exposed nerve, or like an antenna in the air, just taking in all this information when you're performing. And so it's easy to focus hard on yourself and be hard on yourself, but that's one of the things I'm still working on daily.
What would you tell other young musicians who feel that they're too young to join in on events?
Do it. If you're allowed to go, do it. And if you're not, find somewhere where you're welcome. There's Facebook groups. Talk to people in the community. Because there's going to be people, if you're a fan of music, there's going to be people who want to include you in their events. If you're a young musician, there's people who are going to want to mentor you. There's people who are going to want to support you. Growing up, I had Eli Larson, Simon Stockner, a whole bunch of people at the Kispiox Valley Music Festival supporting me as a musician. Eli was my music teacher when I was young, and he made a huge difference. And there's always going to be people who want to support young artists and young fans of music. There's festivals, there's all ages shows. They're not as common as they should be, and I'm hoping that the more shows I play, the more I can open up venues to younger people, because I think art is incredibly important to young people, to kids. It's incredibly inspiring. It's so fun. But yeah, to anyone who feels like they're too young for music or art, nobody's too young for music or art. Everyone should be welcome, and in a vast majority of places, unless it's a 19+ venue, young people are welcome.
Unfortunately, the 19+.
It's pretty common.
It's quite common, yeah.
Yeah.
We're both under 19.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's why I play so many shows, because I can't get into most of them. So
Yeah,
I gotta, if I want to get into a 19 plus venue, I gotta play at one.
Hey, you have the ability to change your birthday show.
Yeah.
Because that was supposed to be 19 plus, right?
Yeah, that wasn't even me. That was the team at Sherwood. I asked if it could be 19 plus or be all ages. Sorry, I asked if we could change it from 19 plus to all ages, and they said they had some insurance issues, but they sorted it out and they got it to 15 plus, I think. So
Yeah, they're so amazing there.
Shout out Sherwood crew.
Shout out Saint Sound.
Shout out Saint Sound. Shout out Sherwood. Shout out all my day ones.
Yeah.
Well, I would. I don't want to be rude. I was going to say, slap the people you were telling them that, because there's no age limit. Mm-hmm. There's no age limit. We've played together, and there's no. Like I'm 71, you're 17.
17,
yeah.
Backwards.
But when the music's happening, there's no age. So if you're a 4-year-old virtuoso and you're playing well with others who are 90 years old, I think it's irrelevant. Who's going to drive home? It's a bigger thing if they're like underage. But I don't think there's any age limit on it. I seen a video somewhere, and God, for the life of me, I can't remember where it was, but it was this guy way older than me, and he was in a music store getting some strings, and the guy asked him, he says, how often do you practice the whole time? He says, oh, about 2 hours a day, and this guy's like 90, and the guy says, well, the guy asking the question says, what's the point? And the old guy says, well, I think I'm making progress. And I thought that was a really good answer. Yeah, you'll never be finished. You'll never arrive.
Right.
You may be excellent, but there's always something to learn.
It never stops.
And that's why it's so addicting. It's once you're hooked, you're in it for life.
Or what did you?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's one of the tough things about music is that as far as like events go, the only way to make it feasible business model for events and stuff a lot of times is to have it in places that require you to be an adult, right? So there can be alcoholic beverages around and all that kind of stuff. So all that aside, you're never too young to get involved in music, to take it in, breathe it in, to experiment with it, just to play. Like, the more you can play, and I mean play, I mean there's practicing and there's honing skills and there's the really hard work that goes in, that's painful with dialing stuff in and just playing things repetitively over and over again. There's also play. We call it playing music for a reason, because you can play. All the exposure you can have to music is good exposure. And so you're never too young. Obviously, there was times when I'm sure you wanted to go to something that I was doing musically and you just couldn't, because, I'm not going to get you a fake ID when you're 12.
I tried asking him. He wouldn't let me.
But you're never too young for music, and you're never too old. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about music, too. It's like Lego. It's from, like, what do they say? Like 0 to 99 or whatever they say Lego is. It's good for any age. And, even for parents, like if you're having babies or you have young children or whatever, just expose them, just bring them around music. And, I've known a lot of people in my lifetime. You meet people all the time, and they're not all musicians. I meet people through work or through whatever, you meet people, and it's pretty rare that you meet someone who just doesn't like music. I've seen it. I've seen some people, and it's not even that they don't like it, they're just maybe indifferent to it. But, I think everybody has a soundtrack to their life. And the sooner you start figuring out what that soundtrack is, the better.
I agree.
Yeah.
What are the changes you see happening in the music community? Is there constant growth? Does it feel the same as when you started?
I think there's growth. Right now I'm seeing more young artists joining the scene, which is when I started playing at the open mics, playing at festivals. I was the youngest at Sherwood by probably nearly 20 years.
Yeah.
And I was one of the youngest people getting up on stages at a lot of the festivals up here. And now I'm seeing a lot of young groups forming, getting out there. We had the Caledonia Jazz Band host the open mic a little while ago. We've got out in Smithers, we've got young groups like the Moss Possums who are starting, and a lot of young performers seem to be just getting out there and doing it, which makes a big difference to me. That's a huge positive change that I'm seeing, is just more young people getting out there and giving it a try. Like, even if they don't keep doing it, it makes a world of a difference to just see young people trying it. Because I think a lot of people don't try it for fear of failing, but if you don't try, you're never gonna know whether or not it would have worked out. But yeah, I see a big difference in kind of the demographic that's starting in the musical industry. We're starting to get a lot more young people. We're having the more experienced people lifting the young people up, which makes a big difference. And I'm also seeing a big improvement in the quality of spaces that are available for musicians to play. You know, places like Sherwood. Sherwood's had some crazy upgrades in the past few years, and you know, the Kispiox Valley Music Festival took a year off to work on the festival there, and so a lot of venues, a lot of festivals are putting in the work to make the venues enjoyable, not only for crowds but also for the musicians who are playing at them, which makes a big difference to me.
Did you watch local live music before you started performing?
Oh yeah, that was what I grew up on. I think I went to the Kispiox Valley Music Festival the first time when I was about 4 months old.
Damn!
Yeah, so one of my earliest memories is being probably a year or two old and laying on my dad's chest at the Kispiox Valley Music Festival and listening to music there. So it's live music was my favorite thing growing up. My favorite part of live events growing up was always the traditional song and dance. That was something that really inspired me and still does, is seeing traditional song and dance is super cool because of how close it came to dying out. And then yeah, also just seeing live music of all kinds. Like going to festivals was my favorite thing as a kid. You know, like Kispiox Valley Music Festival was like a second Christmas for me growing up. Like I couldn't sleep the night before we would go to Kispiox.
Definitely recommend.
Yeah, and that was what made me want to be a rock star. You know, the first time that I played on the main stage at Kispiox, it was kind of an I made it moment for me, because growing up, basically my only dream, what I thought of as being a rock star when I was 4 or 5 years old, was playing the main stage at Kispiox Valley Music Festival.
Yeah.
And so when I was 15, when I stepped onto that stage, and I only had a couple hundred people in front of me, but that's a lot more than I could have dreamed of a couple of years before then. Getting to play there was just a super special moment for me, because yeah, I grew up watching my biggest inspirations playing on that stage. You know, people like the Racket, seeing Rochelle Van Zanten playing there, seeing so many different awesome groups playing on that stage, and then getting to do that at the age of 15 was like super cool for me. And yeah, that's still another one of my favorite places to be, favorite places to play, is out in Kispiox.
And you're performing this Kispiox.
Playing this year, yeah, playing at Kispiox. I don't know if we're getting main stage, but we'll be there.
There's a stage.
There's a stage. There's a band.
There's a stage and there's a band.
There's going to be a crowd. There's going to be songs. All the ingredients for a good time.
Can music heal people and bring people together?
Definitely. I've had friends, I ain't going to mention any names, but I've had some friends that if they didn't have music, their lives would have been a shambles. They would have been, like, things at home weren't great. He had this kind of, but he found solace in music, and he did well.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
My dad goes through Do Not Disturb. I don't know how to turn it off.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's not going to fix you if you're a broken, deluded, demented person,
Yeah.
but it helps.
It can bring out those emotions
Yeah.
from your, yeah.
Yeah, and like deluded, demented emotions, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Any emotions, really.
Yeah, I think music heals people to a certain extent. If you think that music is a magic medicine that heals all, that's not what it's going to do. But it can bring people together. It can, there's a quote from Dave Grohl, which is, you can sing a song to 10,000 different people, and they're going to sing it back for 10,000 different reasons. And I think that's a beautiful thing because, yeah, everyone interprets music differently. Everyone associates it with different things. And I think that's a healing thing in and of itself, being able to be in a crowd of people where you all have this common connection, this common love. But it might be for totally different reasons. I have a song that I wrote about an ex-girlfriend of mine, and I play that live, and I always think it's going to make people miserable because it's a sad breakup song. But one of the first times that I played it live, I had someone come up to me and she said that her sister had died the year before, and it reminded her of her sister. So, different songs written about different things can heal people in so many different ways, can be interpreted in so many totally different ways. So yeah, I think it can heal you to a certain extent.
Of course. Yeah, I think that was a really good answer, actually.
Yeah, I know.
Just so humble.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, it's been a great stable force in my life. Like, speaking from my own experience, when I think back to times in my life that were maybe uncertain, or there was instability, or sadness or struggles or all those kinds of things, something that's just never let me down. As corny as that sounds, music has always been able to lift me up, sometimes enhance my anger, whatever it is. When I need to really like double down on an emotion, or to change an emotion, music is that magic pill. It's like that cure all in that way. And of course, I think it's like that for most people, and healing people. There's been times where songs have changed my outlook on life, whether it's the emotional landscape that's being painted by the instrumentation, the music, or it's the lyrics or the story. There's it's like great literature. It can enlighten you, and so yeah, I really think it can. I mean, it's one of the closest things to magic I've ever seen.
The magical tour bus?
Mystery bus. Magical mystery tour. Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah.
The Beatles? Yeah.
What does music do for the community?
Brings us together. Yeah, that's the biggest thing that music does for, I think, everybody throughout history, and that's the most important thing that it does for us now as well. There's so much division in the world right now, and so I think it's important for people to come together and to work together, and especially creatively.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I don't think anything more needs to be said about that. I think it's just really important that music brings people together.
Yeah, it's awesome because there's just so many different genres of music.
Yeah.
And then everyone's just supporting all of it. And it's
Totally.
just awesome.
Yeah.
And that was one of the final questions of our interview, but you're not done yet. Got one more.
Okay.
What would you rate this interview? Would you say that it's insightful on our community in Terrace and the music? And like, if there was more stuff that needed to be said, what would you say?
Well, I think it's insightful for me, even as someone who's heavily involved, I would say, in the musical community. It's insightful for me to know that people are interested and want to know. So the fact that you see this as something interesting and something worth looking into and want to know, I think that's a great thing. I think you've done a great job, and I think that you're going to be an inspiration amongst people your age and your style, and people who will look at, you know, who you are as a person and say, oh, I can relate to that person. You know, you'll be able to influence in that way with your music and with your art, and this is also an art form, you know, even though it's like information and stuff,
Yeah.
it's still art. You're still putting together art here. So yeah, it's very insightful for me. I think it'll be insightful for the music community, people who are trying to like familiarize themselves with it, or maybe they've been a part of it and they just want to learn a little more about it. You know, seeing things like this, it's like, oh, I didn't realize that about Percy or about
Yeah.
Ezra, or oh, isn't that exciting? You know, I'm going to get to see this down the road that he's talking about now. So yeah, it's cool. I've loved music documentaries. I've watched pretty much every one ever made, and
I feel like it's cool because it's local too, and like
Yeah.
I feel like all three of you gave me some really good answers and some long answers that you wouldn't really know. Like maybe some people don't have the courage to go up and talk to either you, Percy, or Ezra after
Yeah.
they do one of their shows, and they have some questions. And I feel like all you guys just answered the questions really nice and good. So
thank you. And just to talk about that, I think I am unapproachable because when I try to be smiling, but if I'm not smiling, I look like I'm gonna try and kill someone. And when I go to watch music, I hone in. I'm like if I'm watching live music, I am like just concentrating.
Yeah.
So when I concentrate, I've got that serious looking face.
insert the teddy bear. Can't spell teddy bear without bear.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm the real bear when I'm watching music, but it doesn't mean that I don't want to talk to people or are unapproachable. But again, I'm a little bit introverted. So yeah, I mean, by all means, people who see this, I love to talk about music.
Yeah.
With anybody, anytime. And just say I didn't warn you. You know, or don't say I didn't warn you if you come and ask me a question about music, because I'll talk about it for a long time.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to come down into your band room and do this interview with me and share some of your personal experiences and some of your thoughts.
Yeah, I think I'd rate it probably like a 1. I'd say you probably like missed everything. I want to add that you just suck at this, dude.
Well, you heard it from the humble king!
That's me, guys. That's me. Okay.
I'm keeping that in.
Yeah, there you go. That's my honest, earnest. No, I think this was a 10 out of 10 experience. I enjoyed talking about this. Is this your first time interviewing someone, or have you done this in the past?
On video.
Okay, this is your first time interviewing on video.
Yeah.
For first time, great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think I have any notes. Yeah, I enjoyed this. This was good. What's your teacher's name?
Mr. Dosange.
Mr. Dosange, give Carly an A+. She's doing great. It
You
took
heard
us an hour to get this set up because there were 3 cameras
Longer.
that didn't work.
Longer. It's 5:37.
Oh,
We
shit.
started at 30.
Okay, it took us 2 hours to get this set up, almost.
And
And
a lot of failed takes.
And she got 1 hour of sleep last night, and she's killing this, dog. So, Mr. Dosange, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. A+ right here.
I think what I see or what you're doing is, well, it's obviously a school project, but you're trying to show the people who are on the edge who would like to do it, but there's a fear factor. I think what you're doing is a positive, or this interview thing is a positive thing to get the younger people, the ones on the fence, you know, like they're scared to try, and the worst thing you can do is be like 80 years old and wishing that you had done this, you know, and it might not be your shtick, but if you give it a kick, you know, like you will feel a whole lot better about it than if you didn't even try, I think. And so like this, if hopefully what we've done here and your whole project will influence somebody of any age to take it up, to at least give it a try, and their lives will be better for it. Countless.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
I appreciate you coming up for the interview. You gave some really insightful answers, and I appreciate it. So.
Okay.
We did it.
That was so crisp.
That was crisp.
Thank you so much for asking me to, and I'm really happy to be a part of it, and I'm really proud of you, and I'm really excited for the things that you're going to do musically, because you'll far, far go beyond me. Love you.
Love you too.
Yes.